Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
25 ayes, 6 nays, 1 abstention. House Bill 314 passes.
Oh, the battle is on for the hearts, the minds, the bodies of women in Alabama. Now, it's tough to talk about. Let's be real. Chad, you're a cis white male. What would you know about your body? I don't want to get into the battle of that. I don't want to get into the fight of that. I've talked about where I stand on this, right? And there's plenty of people out there that are going to be talking about this all day. They're going to equate it to all kinds of different things. By the way, the governor is expected to sign the bill. And for those of you who don't know, the governor is a woman. So this is going to be there's a battle here for sure. And I look at this in a much different way, right? Like stepping back and looking at things in a larger picture. Trump's legacy is going to be the court as much as it is anything else, right? Now, if he was able to get nuclear weapons away from, or take a place that's completely destabilizing and on the brink of something and transform it to some sort of peace, that's pretty big. But here at home, his legacy, maybe that's Supreme Court. And if he gets one more, think about this. If Trump wins another term, he's probably going to get one more, maybe 2 more. Because I still think somebody on the right it may be saying, all right, I'm out of here. But he may get another one. And we're looking at Ginsburg, obviously, but he may get another one. That would make it 6-3, essentially. Conservatives versus liberal justices, which is generational. It really, really is. This will energize some on both sides. The reality is this may help the Democrats come 2020 with the fear of what may happen going forward if they lose. This may absolutely help. And they're going to come out and they're going to say the things that they're going to say to energize the base. And the other side's going to come back and they're going to say the things that they're going to say. And yesterday it was absolutely, if you watched any of it, if you heard any of it, you've seen any of it, it was fiery, to say the least, on the floor there in Alabama.
You just aborted the state of Alabama. You just raped Alabama with this bill that you're about to send out here. And the governor, when you sign it, you just raped the state of Alabama yourself.
And again, it's a tough thing because I can see both sides. I understand. Right now, this bill, and they debated a lot of things in this thing, right? And I'm a states' rights person, right? I'm a states' rights person. I let states do states. This essentially outlaws abortion across the board, minus very select instances where the woman's life is completely in jeopardy, minus that. And people will say, Chad, well, how would you like it if someone controls your body? People control your body. The government controls your body now. It does. You can't sell your kidney, right? I got 2 great kidneys. What if somebody said, hey, Chad, I'll give you $50,000 for your kidney? I can't sell my kidney. What's the government tell me why I can't sell my kidney? Oh, I can give it to you, but I can't sell it. No, it's mine, right? The things you can and can't put in your body. There are things you can't do. You can't sell your body. And I'm talking about the oldest profession in the world. But this battle is so much bigger. And I'm telling you, while some people may celebrate this on the right, know this, you're energizing a base that already looks out there and says, you hate women, and now we've got to take this thing back. And they're going to be out there, and they're going to be raising money, and they're going to be coming hard. And we can never have a real, like a lot of things, you can't have a real discussion because it is such an emotional thing when you sit down and you have a real discussion about this. But as much as this may help, I think in the long term, it may potentially nationwide scare some people into heading out to the polls when maybe they weren't so much either a fan of anybody who's going to be running on the left because of the craziness there and because they're not fans of Trump. but may say, you know what, I got to get out there because I worry about the future of my body, future of my children's bodies, things of that nature that's very real.
Bill, I'll tell you that one of the most striking moments for me was listening to a Republican lawmaker there describe rape as, quote unquote, difficult circumstances for the birth of a child, and yet then went on to justify even eliminating that exception for this.
This Alabama effort and the effort across this country now in 29 states is an all-out attack on women's reproductive freedom and our basic civil rights. This is a plan by the Republican Party, make no mistake, to overturn Roe v. Wade and turn back the clock on women's reproductive, civil, and human rights.
Kristen Gillibrand right there, running for who? President of the United States of America. And this is the battle that's going to be had going forward. And I'm a states' right guy. States should be able to do the things they want to do. I mean, you look at places like California, New York, Illinois, and the way that they ban certain guns, the way that they limit ammo, the way that they try to figure out a way to go around the actual law, the Second Amendment there, our amendment, and figure out what they can and can't do, how they can and can't restrict. And this is the battle that's gone on for years. And this battle isn't going anywhere. But I'm a big states' rights person. I am. And if this is what Alabama wants to do and they're willing to feel the repercussions, then so be it. But in the bigger picture, understand that battle that people talked about before during the last election, that battle right there over the court and where this court may go and how it could shape a generation is so real. Understand that. Understand what may be coming and how this can energize both bases. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Speaking of energizing bases, this is funny. This is Biden who was confronted by a woman. And if you look and see what's going on, she's at least completely honest about who she is.
I have a very severe case of what's called Trump derangement syndrome. I have a frustration also with the Democratic Party. I would like to see the party and every candidate come out with a very simple message regarding him. He won the election by 70,000 votes in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. He won it because he had help by the Russians. He refuses to do anything to stop that. He's failing to uphold the Constitution. He is not defending our national security. He has no interest in doing it. I don't want to live in a country run by Vladimir Putin.
He is defending us in ways that and we're going to talk to Gordon Chang a little bit later, in ways that you're going to find out. He's defending us in much different ways. And she said something about, well, he won because of the Russians. One of the big reasons that Trump hates talking about Russia, he hated it, is because people on the left, no matter what happens, they always want to be able to say there's an asterisk by his name. They want to delegitimize his presidency as much as possible. And that's got to be frustrating. I've still yet to find anybody who changed their mind because of a link or any of the stuff. The people that believed the things that they believed, nobody was changed by any of those. Any of the memes or the fake news. You believe that already. You're sharing it with your believers or fighting with other people who don't believe in it. But nobody goes, oh, I read this link and I changed my mind. That didn't happen. We make up our minds going into stuff. It's a very select group of people who are independent in nature, who will sway it, whose minds aren't going to be made up. People in 2020, your mind is made up. You're either voting for Trump or against Trump already. Who you're voting for on the left, you don't know, because you don't know who's going to be there at the end. Who you're voting for on the right is going to be Trump as long as he sticks around and says, I'm in this again. That's it. You don't know. Outside of that, there's a very select group of people in some of these swing states that will swing it. And they're going to look at the economy. They're going to look at a lot of other things. But man, that's I'm telling you guys, that's one of the things that drives Trump crazy. I get it. They want to have that asterisk by his name all the time because they want to make sure he's a delegitimate president in their eyes. He's not their president. And he is. He is. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. By the way, for those of you not keeping score, we have a problem at the border still. With all of the other stuff going on, we have a problem at the border. And that border is, we got people sleeping outside intense because we're overrun. We don't know what to do with some of the, the frustration level here from Border Patrol agents in McAllen, in Yuma, in Tucson, the frustrations I'm hearing from a lot of people who are working it and in the middle of it that I talk to. Let me tell you something. They are beyond frustrated because they see it as a humanitarian crisis and they see it as a crisis, an emergency that's not being dealt with because we're too busy doing what? Well, investigating, fighting, investigating some more politicism of other things that have nothing to do with this. It's ridiculous.
In McAllen, Texas. This is what Customs and Border Protection has been saying for months. Overcrowding leads to too many people inside, which is forcing people outside. And in some of those images, you are seeing children sleeping on the ground in the dirt with mylar blankets around them. Of one of those images, there's a baby bottle with milk. You see a woman there sleeping with a child in her arms on rocks. This is a reality at this station in McAllen, Texas.
Yeah, and what's happening? That's just it. What's happening? They're overrun. They're overrun and not being dealt with the way it should be dealt with. And we've got to do a better job, and we've got to get them to say, look, all right, whether it's temporary, and we know government doesn't like to do anything temporary or not, you need to start acting now. Because these games that are being played are so ridiculous, and I'm over it. And I don't know too many people who are uber excited to hear what Don Trump Jr. says or doesn't says behind closed doors when everybody runs out and say, well, this is what he said, or this is what come on. It's time to move on. It's time to grow up. It's time to focus on things right now that need to be dealt with and that can be dealt with. This is one thing. This is something. Immigration, you can deal with it. You have the power to. You and I don't have the power to. We don't have the only power we have comes in election time where we can find people that will. But you and I, we don't have the power to fix this. The men and women who are working it don't have the power to fix it. These people in D.C., they do, and they're not. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from all of you. Roman. Good company. Guys, we don't deal with things, right? Like, we don't. Perfect example. Right now, I've got a pinched nerve, and I'm like, I should go to the chiropractor. I won't go to the chiropractor. I'm hoping it's going to go away. We just don't do it. Same thing goes with ED. 70% of men who have problems, erectile dysfunction, they don't deal with it. They don't deal with it. They ignore the problem, hope it goes away, and it doesn't. Part of the reason is ego. You don't want to wait in line. You think it'll go. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Guess what? Roman's made everything so easy. So easy. It's a one-stop shop where you can see licensed U.S. physicians, right? And then if they say, yeah, you know what, you need something, guess what? Boom. We're going to send you the medicine, unmarked packaging, right to your door. No waiting, none of that stuff. No going into a physician's office. You do it right from the comfort of your home, right online. All you have to do is go to getroman.com/Benson. You complete a dynamic online visit. You chat with a doctor and get genuine medication delivered to your door in discreet, unmarked packaging. Get it sorted out. It's not hard. It's easy to do. Really, really is. Free online visit right now. Go to getroman.com/Benson. 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 At Chad Benson Show. Twitter, ChadBenson. Chad Benson Show.
Take a fake news break. Check out the really important news of the day at our website, ChadBensonShow.com. Once there, click on Chad's free podcast and get real. The Chad Benson Show, where truth and the American way live. Print free.
Newly revealed audio recordings of a meeting between Boeing and American Airlines pilots only weeks after the first 737 MAX crashed in Indonesia. The pilots sounding frustrated that they were not fully informed on a system that pushed down the nose of the aircraft.
We're the last line of defense to be in that smoking hole, and we need the knowledge.
The audio recorded by the pilots and released to several media outlets. Boeing engineers tell the pilots they did not tell them about the new system because they didn't want to overload crews with information.
You know what? There's some information I need to know, right? Do you guys remember Ghostbusters? You remember Ghostbusters producer Phil when they're like they're getting ready to shoot the thing at first, and he goes, hey, Egon, is there anything we should know about this? Oh yeah, if you guys cross paths, we're going to blow up. Those are one of the things you need to know. This is one of the things you need to know. You need to know about this. Boeing has a real problem here, and the FAA has a problem here too.
During the House Transportation Committee's hearing this morning on Boeing 737 MAX planes, Representative Rick Larson stated the FAA has a credibility problem, adding,
"The FAA must take steps to restore public confidence in the ability to maintain the safest aerospace system in the world."
Today's hearing comes at the beginning of the committee's investigation into the FAA's certification of the 737 MAX and the overall safety of the plane.
Yeah, there's some questions that need to be answered. And this isn't, I'm telling you, this is just the beginning. They're going to dig deep into this, expect massive lawsuits, and this is going to hurt Boeing. I wouldn't be surprised if this hurts Boeing for the next 5 years. That's the kind of thing that I think that puts your company behind the eight ball big time. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Each and every day at this time, we break it down for you like it's hot. We keep it hundo P. We put it on fleek. It's your urban word of the day.
It's time for the urban word of the day, fam.
What? Right now?
Time to get a little more hip on the streets.
I can't understand a word you're saying.
Urban word of the day.
So you'll be sitting there and you're looking at your phone and somebody types something to you and you're trying to figure out what it is. Maybe you who don't understand, you just know this. It is not South by Southwest. NSFN is not safe for work. So NSFW, not safe for work, meaning somebody wants to send you something, a link, this, that, and the other, whatever it is, a picture, just not safe for work. Don't look at it there. Don't open it there. It's not some sort of like, hey, NSFN. Oh, I love that. I can't wait to go to that concert. No. And it's not a boy band from Korea or Japan. No. Not safe for work. NSFW. It's your urban word of the day.
Thank you for saying that in dated urban slang so that I'll understand you. That there was the urban word of the day. We damn stretched your cranium.
My solution will stop the problem. And I am willing to work with Democrats to do some things they want to do. But the status quo must stop.
Must stop. What is the status quo? Well, Trump tomorrow is going to give a big news conference / speech in the old garden there about immigration. Everybody wants to see something done on immigration. We're going to talk about what he's outlining in this immigration fix that he thinks he has. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. That's straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
It's about two things. It's about border security, and then it's about reforming the system of legal immigration, the green card system. So on border security, the president wants, of course, to build more wall. He wants to upgrade ports of entry so that every person, every vehicle that comes across is screened, and we stop people from coming across in between legal ports of entry.
So there's a lot moving here with what's happening with TSA and immigration and all of this stuff. And tomorrow he's going to wander out to the Rose Garden and he's going to deliver himself the new vast change in immigration, what he would like to see happen. Now, understand this. I want everybody to get this before they freak out in the world of immigration. All those people who are open borders or everybody should be allowed to come here for asylum. The chances of this, which seems pretty level-headed, actually getting anywhere, because remember, the Republicans do not have a filibuster-proof majority. The chances of them getting this thing through into the Senate and ever onto his desk is slim to none. But he's got what he calls 4 pillars. There's 4 pillars, if you will. And he's got 6 issues that he's going to be addressing. All kinds of things like green cards.
Now, the second part of the system, as I mentioned, is reforming the system of legal immigration. This is the awarding of green cards, changing it to a merit-based immigration system. Now, the United States would still issue the same number of green cards is currently being issued, which is just slightly more than 1 million a year. But they want to change the makeup of the immigrant population.
It's not the makeup. of the immigrant population. That's wrong. That makes it seem like, oh, well, we want. No, it's how they're looking at doing. The formula right now, 12% skills-based, 66% with family ties, 22% humanitarian. Now it's 57% skills is what Trump would like, 33% family, 10% humanitarian, right? So before we, oh my God, it's not like he said, oh, okay, all we really want is white people. Oh, that's what he implied. No, I'm all about a merit-based thing. Who doesn't want merit-based? Hey, guess what? You're really good at this. We need people like you. And remember, when it comes to immigration, we're going to need both skilled labor, which we need now, and we're going to need unskilled labor, if you will, laborers, right? Laborers. And he even outlined that when he talked about the fact that we're going to need not only the best and the brightest immigrants we're looking for, but also we need to be importing people here for critical industries. All right. So then there is the whole thing about the family.
Currently, employment skills-based immigrants are 12%. They want to increase that to 57%. Family-based immigration currently is 66%. They want to cut that in half to 33%.
Now, that right there, the 33%, what he's saying is limited family members who can come to the country, which are going to be children and spouses. So you can't be, I'm going to bring my mom, my dad, my brother, my uncle, my cousin, my aunt, my nephew, and all. No, it's immediate family. Immediate family that will be allowed to come here. So if you're coming here, you've got a green card, and a company's recruiting you, right? Like no matter what it is. So you're a programmer, you're an IT person, you've got some awesome skill that a glass company needs because you're the only person who's this kind of glazer and do this thing. They bring you here. You can bring your wife, you can bring your husband, you can bring your kids. Not everybody else gets to come. Oh, that's not very nice. And the humanitarian thing that'll be the big blowback. Oh, how dare you do something like that? That's awful. That's wrong. Oh.
What the president wants to move to is a Build America visa that will recognize extraordinary talent, people with professional and specialized vocations, and exceptional students who are currently in the country, make moves to keep those people in the United States. And visas will be awarded, green cards will be awarded on a point-based system, which gives points for age, English proficiency, an offer of employment above a certain wage threshold, and educational and vocational certifications.
Now, does that sound awful? Yes. I'm just kidding. It sounds great. I don't see anything wrong with that. People are going to point out, well, it's not fair because other people are poor and they don't have that. There's still going to be people that are going to import, and this is where the companies are going to need certain laborers. He talked about that and laying this out in the outline when he was talking to people. They want to make sure they import for critical industry certain amount of labor. That's where we need a better understanding, especially from south of the border. And Canada, because I know Canada, we import a lot of Canadians to come over here to pick things. But we're going to need seasonal workers. I don't have a problem with this. I know a lot of people will. There's going to be a lot of the bleeding hearts out there that have a problem with this. There's going to be a lot of people out there. But just know this. These are all wish list things. None of this is going to happen. None of this, because they don't have the House. So it never makes it out of the House into the Senate where it's even debated on in any way, shape, or form. This is all just stuff they're going to talk about, stuff they're going to debate, things that I think need to happen. And whenever I argue with anybody, and I hate arguing with people over any kind of merit-based, like, well, we don't, we're importing people. We should be importing, on the humanitarian side of things. We can't bring everybody here. We can't be. And what is wrong with wanting to bring the best and the brightest here? I don't see a problem with that. We don't want your dumb and slowest. We want your best and brightest. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's heating up in Alabama.
Just moments ago, out of Alabama, Governor Kay Ivey signing into law the Alabama Human Life Protection Act. It's the nation's strictest abortion bans, which makes performing an abortion a felony in nearly all cases. Again, Governor Kay Ivey signing into law the nation's strictest abortion ban, making performing an abortion a felony in nearly all cases.
Yeah, all cases, minus one. And they debated that last night. And this is something else. They know the court-wise that this thing's heading straight to court. Everybody understands what's going to happen, and we know what's going to happen when it gets there.
I think that the court would basically kind of throw all of that out, and I think that it would not get past that. But if it does get there, I'm certain that the U.S. Supreme Court would throw it out for those reasons. So, and this is what they're looking at. The bill makes it a felony if a doctor does an abortion on somebody. So if they perform an abortion, they face up to 99 years in jail. Right? Now, the person getting an abortion, they face no consequences at all as far as felony or misdemeanor or any criminal thing like that. The thing that they fought over was rape and incest, and they decided, nope, you got to do that. The only way that you could, that's got to stay. The only way we'll even think about allowing somebody to do this is if the mother's life is truly in danger and she may lose her life. Then what's going to happen? It'll go to court. The bill will be thrown out. It'll be challenged unconstitutional. The states are going to test this. And people say, well, Roe v. Wade is soon to be overturned. It's not going to be. I don't think any of them want to touch Roe v. Wade at all. I think they're going to let it be settled law. I think what they're going to allow to have happen is states like Alabama, and there's been several other states they're going to see how far they can push the limits when it comes to abortion. They're not saying you can't have an abortion. They're just saying you can't have it here in Alabama. I'm a big states' rights person. For a lot of people, that's going to make them angry, and people are pissed off, and we're not doing business in Alabama. Let's be real. Not many people are doing business in Alabama. It's Alabama, for God's sakes. I'm not making fun of Alabama. I'm just saying it's not like Hollywood was going there all the time. This is a battle that's going to go on for a while, but states are going to now test the thing that we talked about earlier, which is the court system, and in particular, how far they think they can take this. I don't think Roe v. Wade federally will be overturned because I don't think they want any part of that. But I do think states along the way are going to test that to see how far they can get. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Speaking of abortions and births, should we even be talking about that with the way we're going?
The Centers for Disease Control says about 3.79 million babies were born last year, a 2% decline from 2017, and the fourth year in a row the U.S. birth rate has declined. In 10 of the last 11 years, the number of babies born in the United States has gone down. Researchers say reasons for the declining birth rate in the U.S. include more women getting college degrees and fewer teenagers having babies. In fact, the teen birth rate in this country has fallen 72% since its peak in 1991.
Yeah, we're not even, and why that's important is because the baby boomers are getting older. And as they get older, they're not being replaced as they retire out, pass away when it comes to work. So we need a certain amount to continue to see the population stay steady or rise, and that includes our workforce. That's why immigration is such a huge thing. But we're not having children like we used to. And a younger generation isn't really into having families for several reasons. Some of it is, it's like we're not even communicating with one another. We talk about that all the time, but our communication levels, it's not what it once was at all. Kids aren't interested the way they used to be. Now it's a porn epidemic or whatever it is. It's just not that. And they're already saddled with so much debt. And a lot of people look at kids as a pain in the ass. Plus, you've got a young generation that they're into them, right? There's a reason selfie is a big thing because it's about self. And so baby kind of gets in the way of career and travel and fun and 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. So, ZipRecruiter. I love ZipRecruiter. So good. I had a couple friends who said, oh, Chad, you really use ZipRecruiter? So, yeah, when my uncle and I, we have our business and we need somebody, we go there. And it's so amazing and how easy it is. And if you've got a job right now, I got a job, I can't find anybody, especially in this tight job market. ZipRecruiter is amazing. Don't do something dumb and place it all over in wacky places where it costs you way too much money and you don't get any bang for your buck and you're just kind of waiting around hoping somebody finds you. Simple and easy. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Benson. Be smart about it. Immediately, your job goes to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. They don't stop there. They got this powerful matching technology. What they do is ZipRecruiter scans all of these resumes that are out there, and then it scans what you're looking for. It then matches the two, and then it invites them to come to you, right? And then they highlight the best of those. In fact, how effective is ZipRecruiter? 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first 24 hours. Boom. Right now, you guys can try it for free. It's on me. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Benson, ZipRecruiter.com/BENSON, ZipRecruiter.com/Benson. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. Okay. This right here is a wild story. Wait till you hear about this. It is insane. Chad Benson Show.
Feel free to punk this punk rocker any time of the day or night. Reach Chad on Twitter at Chad Benson Show and on Instagram at Chad Benson Show. And oh yeah, the Chad Benson Show on Facebook too. Punk that.
Every once in a while, you hear a story on the Chad Benson Show, and you say there's just no way that's real. But this one, kids, is very, very real. And it's the attitude of the man that this happened to that is just shocking when you think to yourself, man, some people out there whine over a paper cut.
Unloading corn and into a bin. We were moving corn and taking from one place to the other.
63-year-old Kurt Kaiser has been a grain farmer for more than 40 years. But it was one simple mistake that could have cost his life.
Yeah, a simple mistake. I like how that was a simple mistake. Oh, it was more than a simple mistake, kids. It was a mistake.
If I could have got by that first load, unloading, I think I'd have thought of it or seen it. But I was in that routine like I always used to do. And I didn't think of it.
He says he stepped out of his truck, turned around the corner,
and stepped in the hopper in that little hole. It just sucked my leg in, and I was trying to pull it out, and it kept pulling.
And there was no one around to help.
When it first happened, I can remember telling myself, this ain't good. This is not good at all.
No. And he probably, you listen to this guy, you probably think, he's probably screaming. No, I think after watching this, that's probably what he thought. Well, this ain't good. Nah, I don't think this is probably not good. The first thing that came to mind in this entire thing is, how did Trump get all the way to this guy's house to hurt him? Because he's hurting farmers, and then to get back to wherever he needed to go.
Kaiser couldn't find a cell phone to call anyone, his desperation growing.
I thought, how long am I going to stay conscious here? You know, because I didn't know what to expect. And then I felt it jerk me again. I thought, well, I was going in, they're going to grab me and pull me in further.
It's going to grab me and pull me in further. I better figure something out. So what would you do in a situation like that? That's a very good question. So what would you do? Would you, A, just be resigned to death? Would you B, just scream and yell and just hope and just continue to scream? Would you do maybe what he did?
And he was left with just one option.
When I had my pocket knife in my pocket, I thought, well, the only way I'm getting out of here is cut it off. So I just started sawing on it.
He amputated his own leg.
When I was cutting it, the nerve endings, I could feel them just ping every time when I'd start sawing around that pipe. And all at once it went and let me go. So I got the heck out of there.
It's just like, and there it went. You know how it was. And pop, there it went. Oh, my God.
He then army crawled 150 feet across the farm to the nearest phone to call for help.
I stayed conscious all the way to the hospital. I remember being unloaded up here and on life flight.
Yeah, I stayed conscious all the way there. But this is the attitude. Listen to the guy. The people that work with him say he is the most nonchalant towards this entire thing. Remember, he sawed his own leg off with his knife. And it wasn't like he had some massive machete or anything. He had a little knife, and he said, pop the tendons, pop the nerves. You could hear it pop, and then pop away it goes. Oh, but it's the attitude he has. It's just so like, yeah, you know what it is.
Despite what happened, Kaiser's occupational therapist Danny Willie says his attitude has been extremely positive.
I ain't too bad.
Pretty nonchalant about everything that actually happened, like it was no big deal.
It is what it is. Make the best of it is all you can do. I mean, it could have always been worse.
Yeah, what a great, like, you came with 4, you left with 3, but you're still alive kind of attitude. You got to admit, man, that is some attitude right there. That is some big-time attitude. People want. Now when you're going to be going home tonight, you go, you know what, I twisted my ankle, but I'm not going to bitch about that because that guy cut his own leg off. He cut his own leg off. Just think about that. Think about that for a second. Think about, could you cut your finger off in a bad situation, let alone looking around in the middle of a cornfield thinking, I don't have my cell phone. I'm going to have to make a decision here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to cut my leg off. Then to army crawl, and he never lost consciousness. That is insane. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Some of you tweeting in about the abortion thing. Let's just put it this way. How extreme is Alabama's new abortion law? Pat Robertson. That Pat Robertson. Right? That Pat Robertson. CBN, Pat Robertson said, yeah, this is too extreme. So soak that up for a second. Soak it up. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Love it when you tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Check out the chadshow.com. Grab your podcast there as well. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Alabama's Governor, Kay Ivey, wasted no time signing this controversial bill into law. If it survives legal challenge, which is questionable here, it would take effect in 6 months and effectively outlaw abortion across the state, even including instances where the pregnancy was caused by rape or incest. The only exception would be if the mother's life were in danger. This law now criminalizes abortion in Alabama, and the person who would pay the penalty for that crime is the doctor. Any doctor performing an abortion in Alabama could be sentenced to up to 99 years, essentially life in prison.
Yeah. So Kay is a she, right? Ivy, woman who is pro-life, signed this bill. It's a felony. Even Pat Robertson, I keep saying that, said, yeah, this is too extreme. In cases of incest and rape, sorry, got to deal with it. Yeah, this is a bridge too far. This is. And what they're trying, look, I think ultimately what they're trying to do is they're trying to get it so fetuses have rights. That's it. Right? And the fight for abortion isn't going anywhere. It's not. People are pissed. People are angry. Some people are happy, right? Some people, I've seen a lot of, I've got some pro-life women who are happy about this, but even them, several that have texted me said, you know what, the incest and the rape is that is a bridge too far. It's a battle. And usually I say, guys, this is one of those things where, you pick and choose your battles. And guys have a part to play. Let's be real. We do. We should have, a little bit of a voice because as a father, but we've also devalued fathers in so many ways, and we've devalued ourselves in a lot of ways. But the reality is Alabama, like a lot of other states, are looking at the Supreme Court. And they're saying to themselves, let's see how far we can go as our state. We have states' rights. That's what we're into. Constitutionally, you know what we have to follow. We have states' rights. And this is one of those things that they're going to see how far it's going to go. I think it'll lose immediately in the courts, so there'll be a stay, and then their whole thing is they want to take it to, and this is, one of these is going to get to the Supreme Court, and the whole thing is somebody's hoping to challenge federally Roe v. Wade. I don't think that it's going to be challenged. I think they're going to kick them down to the lower courts, whatever they rule on is what it is. And states' rights is an issue that people have. I know a lot of people are pissed about this, and some people are happy about it. For me, I don't live in Alabama. But that's that. I don't live in Alabama. I don't know what it's like to be a woman in Alabama. And this is going to be, they're going to boycott everything. Alabama's going to be shunned by Hollywood. Like anybody in Hollywood's like, we need to go to Alabama. The only time, I'm going to be honest with you guys, all right? I want everybody to gather around the radio. Do you know when we pay attention to Alabama? Does anybody have any idea when we pay attention to Alabama? It starts in August, and it usually ends right around January 3rd to 10th. And it usually is just a few Saturdays throughout the year that we pay attention to Alabama because that's when football happens. Outside of that, nobody pays attention. This has got national attention. But there's been several other. Georgia, the heartbeat bill. There's a bunch of other states that are looking at this and saying, we're going to challenge this. We're going to challenge this. And this is what you're going to get. Because Trump's legacy, and I talked about this so many times, Trump's legacy in so many ways is going to be really dependent on the court. And if he gets one more person appointed to the court, right now it's 5-4, but we've seen, right, Gorsuch, we've seen, Roberts, we've seen a few of them go to the other side on a few things where conservatives like, whoa, including things like Obamacare. Even the other day, right, Kavanaugh sided with the liberals on the Apple thing. But if he has one more, wow, that's a legacy. That's a generation you're talking about. When you've got court-appointed Supreme Court people who are never going to leave. It is a lifetime appointment. Think about generationally what that can happen. And on top of that, what doesn't get talked about underneath, judges appointed underneath them. He's shaping the courts in ways that people don't really understand because the attention's only being paid in places like the Supreme Court. But think about this. When you start to shape so many of these other courts, right, district courts and whatnot, that it's going on, what ends up happening? When they say, well, we'll go with what the lower court said. Well, if the lower court happens to be conservative as well, that's why it's important. It is. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Tomorrow, Trump is going to be speaking from the Rose Garden. He's got a new plan that's going to focus on reducing family-based immigration to the U.S. in favor of employment-skilled immigration. It is going to be very interesting to see how this goes over. The reality is it's never going to happen. Not at this point in time because they don't have the House. Republicans don't have the House. So it's not going to happen. It's just not. But it's a different kind of plan than what that we have currently right now as far as immigration goes. But it's bringing the focus back to immigration and the economy, which is where he should be focusing a lot of his attention.
What the president wants to move to is a Build America visa that will recognize extraordinary talent, people with professional and specialized vocations, and exceptional students who are currently in the country, make moves to keep those people in the United States. And visas will be awarded, green cards will be awarded on a point-based system, which gives points for age, English proficiency, an offer of employment above a certain wage threshold, and educational and vocational certifications.
And the offer of employment above a certain wage threshold, does anybody understand why they're doing something like that? It's pretty simplistic. It's because we don't want to take care of you. That's why. We don't want you on the dole. When I moved to England, you know what I had to show? I had to show I had a job. I had to show I had a contract. I had to show I was having money coming into my account, so I was not going to be a burden to them. Now, what he wants to do, essentially, in his ideal world based on this. Currently, skills-based immigration counts for 12%. This is the formula. 66% is family-based, which is family members. 22% is humanitarian. He wants to cut down to 10% with humanitarian, 57% for skills-based, and then the family side, which is 33%. And what he wants to do is to limit family to your husband, your wife, your children. Nobody else. Nobody else. I'm sure in special circumstances, maybe something, but that's really it. It can't be grandma, grandpa, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. No. Your wife, your husband, your kids. Now, doesn't matter. Like I said, I would love to see this at least debated in a real way where we can talk about stuff and start to say, well, maybe we can do this, right? Maybe instead of 22% humanitarian, we go 15%. And maybe instead of 66, we do, 50%. We can raise the skills base. I would love that. But he wants to, the 6 things he's looking at is obviously finishing the border wall, protecting America's wages, keeping the brightest that are already here. So people that are here working, trying to keep them, people that are here going to school, enticing them to stay, get your education here, stay here, become a productive member of society. Who knows, maybe one day become an American. And preserving humanitarian values, keeping the asylum system, which is vitally important, but limiting it. And then, of course, the labor, importing labor for critical industries that are going to need labor. As far as the green cards go, it's still going to stay about 1.1 million. All that laid out, all that aside, it doesn't matter. They don't have the House. The Republicans do not have a filibuster-proof majority, so next to impossible. But at least laying something out there is interesting. Doesn't mean anything's going to happen, but is interesting to think about, hey, let's at least get back to having a conversation about something else, right, that isn't all of the baloney that goes on a day-to-day basis out there. And there is a lot of stuff that goes on that, quite frankly, is ridiculous. It really is. When we sit here and we talk about all the stuff that they do. Do you know on Friday, right? On Friday, they're going to be holding a vote for an equality vote, right? To make everything equal. Like, okay, and I was talking yesterday to Congressman Schweiker. He said, equal across the board. So let's just say and what he explained to me, and I'm looking into it, I'll find out more about it tomorrow, but as I've looked into it, is things like, let's say your religion has women sit one place and men sit another. If women want to sit with you now, you're going to probably have to let them. Little things like that, like that's what we're dealing with. Even Dick Durbin made fun of the fact that we're not talking about things.
If we're going to have a real committee markup, a real committee discussion, and it might lead to a bill coming to the floor of the United States Senate. Imagine that, with amendments and debate. People would actually vote on the floor of the Senate on something other than a McConnell judicial nomination. What a breakthrough. It's almost like something called the United States Senate. You may remember that from the movies.
Yeah, no. Joking around, because he knows that nothing else comes through. There's nothing else being debated. D.C.'s living in its own world, and they're completely out of touch of what's going on. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet about it. While Alabama is doing its new version of baby blocking, Facebook, along with Skin, is trying to come up with another baby blocker.
Babies. The baby blocker, as it's called, is designed for your Facebook feed where, as this promotional video points out, parents with new bundles of joy will inevitably
share the joy with thousands of baby images on your newsfeed, whether you like it or not.
Designed by the condom company Skin, Baby Blocker is an extension you install on the Google Chrome browser.
Your social media contraceptive
That detects baby pics and replaces them with things you'd rather see, like images of nature or cheeseburgers.
Giving you more browsing pleasure.
Scott Goldberg, ABC News.
Oh, my goodness me. I never did that. You know what? I try to, I don't do the whole, like, I'm going to put all kinds of crazy, once in a while I put pictures of Jack up now, but as a baby now, and he looked kind of like an alien. I told him that. It was about 6 months. He kind of looked like alienish. people go, your baby's so beautiful. It's like, Jack, the first 6 months, looked a little alienish. I'm going to be honest with you. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Credit card debt is ridiculous. Why not do something smart and start to build some equity in your life and in your bank account by getting rid of those high interest rate credit cards, which are everywhere, and do what? Get a credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream. Get ready for this. Rates as low as 5.25% APR with autopay. Boom. How about $100,000 loans? Yeah, with no fees? Oh, yeah. $5,000 to $100,000. You can even get your money as early as the same day you apply. Lightstream, division of SunTrust Bank. Very fair. Just know, peace of mind right there. One of the largest financial institutions in the country. And right now, my listeners, you can save additional because you can get interest rate discount when you sign up at lightstream.com/Benson. It's lightstream.com/Benson. Sign up today. Save yourself even more. Subject to credit approval. Rate includes 0.50% auto pay discount. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/Benson for more information. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
Social media has really been terrible for my generation.
Singer and actress Selena Gomez, the third most followed person on Instagram, asked about social media while promoting her upcoming movie, The Dead Don't Die, at the Cannes Film Festival.
I think it's dangerous for sure. I don't think people are getting the right information sometimes.
She says when she does meet and greets with young girls,
they're just devastated dealing with bullying.
Gomez also saying she's grateful she has the platform, but suggests people limit their time on social media.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anthony sends me a story. So producer Anthony sends me a story. Says this is wild. And so I start reading it. A young girl is suicidal. So she does a poll on Instagram. D or L, death or life. And people vote for D, and she kills herself. And you're thinking to yourself, my God, the influencers. And it's influence. I don't think people realize not only is there bullying, but there's also people out there that are looking for things. And people have, for whatever reason, these people on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter have such an influence. And I was reading, producer Phil scours, we all scour and we look for all these articles I think are interesting. And one of them he sends me is about millennials and money. And the fact that millennials, who not only in debt because of college, but they are spending money at an alarming rate at times on things that are really for internet only, for social media to try to impress their friends. And they're also very influenced by their friends. And they say that the reason they're spending money at such an alarming rate, 49% of them said it's because they see their friends do it or somebody on Instagram do it. So they'll overspend on something because they want to participate in it. And it's crazy. And it's that fear of missing out. So it doesn't matter if it's bullying or if it's this wanting to keep up with the Joneses. There is a huge part of this country right now that is not only being influenced, but these things have such a pull in a negative way, and can be in a positive way. A lot of times we talk about it, it's negative. There's also a lot of positive out there, and I think the internet and at times social media, the positive outweighs the negative. But make no bones about it. The reality is there is some issues that need to be dealt with, and I think a lot of that comes in grounding your children in particular, because the Gen Z world that I come from, which is, by the way, we're the Jan Bradys of the world, because you've got there's way more baby boomers and way more Gen Zs or millennials than there is us. We kind of got the best of both worlds. We've had our foot in mom and dad's world and understand the greatest generation, and we've also had our foot in the other world of media, social media, and the internet. So we're grounded in a much different way, and I think that's where we as parents need to really ground the kids to have an understanding. But God, social media, it can be awful, and it's just I'm amazed at times at how horrible we are to human beings. And my thing is, if you won't say it to my face, and you won't say it to somebody else's face, then you shouldn't say it online. You shouldn't. Just because you can in life doesn't always mean you should. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Gordon Chang joins us next. Guy knows a lot about China. He's going to break down this entire trade thing going on and where he thinks we stand and what we should do next. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
When the whole tariff thing started really taking off and you saw that there was a battle coming, there was one person I said, we got to get him on. Gordon Chang joins us. The Coming Collapse of China is his book. He's got a lot of books, but I'm telling you guys, he knows so much about this. Gordon, appreciate you coming on today. And I keep telling everybody, this isn't just about tariffs. There's a bigger thing at play here. And China has bigger designs on the world, don't you think?
Oh, well, certainly. You know, for one thing, China is using the proceeds of international commerce to expand its military. At the same time, its senior military officers feel that they can, in public, talk about unprovoked attacks on the U.S. So in December, 2 senior Chinese military officers did that. And in the second of those outbursts, a rear admiral actually said, look, we should be using our 2 ballistic missiles, the Dongfeng 21D and the Dongfeng 26, to sink 2 aircraft carriers and kill 10,000 Americans. So that puts this trade discussion in perspective.
You know, I look at this, and of course, the media, it's craziness. All they show is, oh, let's go find a farmer that's struggling here, and we'll paint that picture. But the reality is I did an interview today, and I said, you know, what about all the people that can't do business in China? But what about all the people that are sitting there saying, you know what, I'm glad Trump's doing this, even though I don't like Trump. Maybe I'm glad he's doing this because China they joined the World Trade Organization, they broke every rules, and nobody holds them accountable.
Oh, absolutely. You know, so for instance, when China joined the WTO in 2001, they promised to allow U.S. credit card companies into China by 2006. Well, they didn't. And by 2012, we actually won a WTO case against China. Today, Chad, no U.S. credit card company is issuing its own cards in China. American Express has gotten preliminary approval from the Chinese central bank, so maybe in a year or so they'll be able to do that, but they had to take on a joint venture partner to get even this far. So, you know, when this has occurred, China has its UnionPay card has taken over the market. You've had Alibaba, their Alipay affiliate, plus Tencent's WeChat wallet. They have taken over electronic payments. There's not much of a market left for anybody, including American Express. This was malicious, it was effective, and we didn't do very much about it, or what we did was essentially ineffective.
You know, it's so funny because you talk about we didn't do much about it. A lot of people haven't because we're a consumer-based nation. We love to gobble up cheap stuff, you know, stock them deep, sell them cheap kind of thing. And so for a while, we've kind of ignored it. But, you know, Trump has been He's been very consistent throughout the years, whether it be with Japan back in the 80s all the way up to now, about trade and how we should use tariffs if we have to use them. And I don't think people understand that a lot of this is also our doing, and not just us, but the rest of the World Trade Organization, because we've kind of ignored it because we've liked the cheap goods.
Well, that's certainly true. And when we've had our addiction to cheap goods, we've had Americans lose their jobs. You know, we have a fentanyl crisis. About 30,000 Americans died of fentanyl overdoses, which, by the way, is sold from China because they don't have jobs. And what we need to do is to have jobs for Americans, and this is elemental. And, you know, there's one other aspect to this. You know, if we use these tariffs, we can get factories to leave China because they want to eliminate their geopolitical risk. Some of those factories will come back to the U.S., high-end manufacturing. Some won't. But the ones that won't, they'll go to our friends, countries that don't threaten to kill our service people. Also, you get some of those factories coming back to Central America. That will stabilize those communities there. You stabilize the communities in Central America, it means you don't have people joining caravans pressuring our southern border. So there's so many beneficial effects of getting business out of China.
Talking to Gordon Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China. I look at China again, what is it? China 2025, the bigger global dominance that they want to have on the globe. And I think this is a fight between our way of life, capitalism and free markets, free thinking individuals, and what China has put itself into this bizarre world of some financial freedom, and we're going to take away the rest of your freedoms. People, explain to the audience out there what China's ultimate dream would be for the globe, not just for China, for the globe.
Well, it would be domination of the globe. Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler, has been hinting for more than a decade that China is the world's only sovereign state. And his foreign minister in September 2017 actually got very explicit about this because Wang Yi, the foreign minister, wrote an article in Study Times, which is the Central Party School's influential newspaper. And in that article, Wang Yi said that Xi Jinping thought, and in Communist Party lingo, a thought is an important ideological body of work. He wrote that Xi Jinping thought made innovations on and transcended international relations thinking, Western international relations thinking, for the past 300 years. You take 2017, you subtract 300 years, you almost get to 1648, which is the Treaty of Westphalia, which is the treaty that establishes the current international system of competing sovereign states. So when you take a look at what Xi Jinping has been saying and you put it together with what Wang Yi wrote, and you consider that China's House scholars talk about the application of these notions of China being the only sovereign state in the world, well, that means they think we're a colony, and I don't want to live as a subject of China. So that's what's at stake here.
No, I don't want to live as a subject of China at all. And again, it's not just us, it's everybody. Talking to Gordon Chang here, author of one of the great books out there, The Coming Collapse of China. And you just got to read the stuff that he talks about. And we talk about the trade war, the trade battle, whatever we're going to call it, depending on what show you're watching. Who's got the upper hand in this? Because the reality is, if you watch their hair on fire, we hate Trump. It's the China. They almost want China to win because it'll be a loss for Trump. But overall, who's got the real upper hand here? Because we buy a lot more than we sell there.
Oh, yeah, we certainly do. I mean, first of all, we are the trade deficit country. So trade surplus countries don't do well in trade wars. But also China has an economy that is dependent on selling things to us. We do not have an economy geared to selling things to China. Last year, Chad, China's merchandise trade surplus with the U.S. Accounted for 129.6% of its overall merchandise surplus. 129.6%. Overwhelming dependence on us. Also, we've got an economy which is larger. We produced about $20.4 trillion of GDP, gross domestic product, last year. China claimed $13.28 trillion, though it's probably less. We've got an economy grew 3.2% in the first quarter. China claimed 6.4, but probably was growing 1 or 2 if it was growing at all. There's so many other of these metrics which show that the United States has the upper hand. The only thing that we might not have is political will. But I think in the last week or so, President Trump demonstrated a lot of political will. Xi Jinping is in dire straits. And so, therefore, we should be pressing the advantage. This is no time for us to make concessions because we don't have to.
You know, it's funny that the political will, for all the disdain that a lot of the Democrats have for Trump and the politics is there. We all know what that is. The fact is that this is a playbook in many ways out of some of the Democrats. You've seen the likes of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi even tweet about, stay strong. And I talked to a couple of Congress people over the last couple of days who've talked to people, in France and in the European Union who hope like some of the antics. They like the fact that somebody's getting in the face of China in something like this. So he may have more political will than people think.
Oh, yeah, well, certainly. And he's going to have the backing of, as you mentioned, the Pelosi and Schumer. The only person he probably doesn't have the backing of is Joe Biden with those inexplicable comments about China is not competition for the U.S. But, when Biden made those remarks, he got criticized by everybody, which is a real indication that China is, across the political spectrum, is seen as a malign actor. That's a very good story. We don't have a national consensus yet as to what to do, but it is forming. And by the way, because China is attacking our country, and we can go through that in a lot of detail, because China is attacking our country, we've got to stay united. Whether we like our president or don't, he's the only president we have, and we're going to have to back him because the alternative to him is Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler. And as I said, we are not becoming a colony of Beijing.
No, we're not. The Coming Collapse of China, author Gordon Chang is joining us. One of the things I've always talked about, Gordon, is, the one thing that we have done because we've bought so many goods and because they have now given people some freedom in China of economic freedom. I always said, once you start messing with people's money, that's when you'll see it go crazy. It's a different world than, say, Tiananmen Square in the late 80s, early 90s in China now. And I've always said, if the financial collapse comes, if you think that it was bad then and what would happen, the rise up of people losing financial freedoms along with other freedoms, I think would undo the communist regime across the board.
Yeah. Well, China right now is, as I mentioned, is not growing in the sixes as Beijing claims. It's probably growing in the onesies or twosies, could even be contracting. But we also know that China is in dire straits because in order to create whatever growth it does, it is accumulating debt 5.5 times faster than it's producing nominal gross domestic product, even if you believe the inflated claims, official claims for GDP. That is completely unsustainable. That's up from 1.5 times a year ago. And that really means that the Chinese rulers got to be at a point where they understand they've got no choice but to find an enemy, which is what Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler, has done. They're now talking about the trade spat as a quote-unquote people's war. Now, I don't know if they really mean that, but the point is once you start saying things like that, it restricts the ability of Chinese leaders to compromise and to do the right thing, which means we've got a long-term struggle, which means that we've got no choice but to prevail.
Let's just say we get out to the end of the year and we're in a situation where we're still in this and Trump and them are still going back and forth. You look at our economy, you look at their economy. Where do you think this thing is heading? This is obviously going to be far worse for them, but there could be some sting here in our economy as well.
Well, there will be a sting. And, we can't think that we could run decades of misguided trade policy and think that we can get out of this without cost. And let's put this again in context. I mean, China, the reason why we've got these tariffs that we're talking about, they're imposed under the authority of Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 as a remedy for the theft of U.S. intellectual property. China each year steals somewhere between $150 and $600 billion worth of U.S. IP, probably in the $300 to $400 billion range. We don't know. But whatever loss it is, it's grievous, and it affects us because we're not going to have an innovation-based economy if we cannot commercialize our technology. And the Chinese are preventing us from commercializing that technology. So, we get out to the end of the year and there's no trade deal. I say that's a great thing. We just pile on the tariffs. We prevent, I think we should even go beyond the tariffs. But the point is, we need to defend our own economy. We need to defend our innovation. Along the way, we've got to help farmers because they are being hurt by this. But nonetheless, what we are doing is moving towards a situation where our economy is distancing itself from China's. That's a great thing for us. And as we move along that continuum, we are going to get back our sovereignty.
Trump has an election coming up, and obviously the economy is such a huge player in the election. No matter what anybody says, we all know that it is a driver when it comes to re-election, in particular when it comes to the president. Xi always seems to be in some sort of election because the fact is his staying power may not be what Trump's staying power is because the Communist Party doesn't deal with things like that, and that pressure must be mounting on him.
We know that is very perceptive, Chad. People say, well, Trump faces the election in November 2020, so therefore he's got more motivation to do a deal. Well, the way I put it is that Xi Jinping faces an election every day. And the reason is that two things. First of all, Xi Jinping has accumulated power from everybody else, which means he's got nobody else to blame. So he's accountable for everything that goes wrong. And, in fact, he's being blamed for who lost America, which is the conversation in Beijing. But second of all, he's deinstitutionalized the Communist Party, which means he's gotten rid of those rules, guidelines, norms that have constrained infighting. And these were put in place after the Maoist era, where there was no holds barred fighting. So Xi Jinping knows if he loses, there's no safety net. He could be thrown out tomorrow. He could be thrown out in the next hour. And that means he knows he's got to prevail. He knows he's got to use every underhanded technique in the book. And that makes this an existential struggle for him, which makes it, by the way, an existential struggle for us.
I could talk to you for hours, my man. I appreciate you coming on, taking time today. Gordon Chang right there, The Coming Collapse of China. Great book. As always, love having you on, man. Thanks so very much.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. It's so much to take in. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
You want to tell them what's going on here?
I should tell you what's going on? Well, I'm not even sure.
You're the owner. I'm looking, my hands are shaking.
What's going on after all 20-some-odd years of having a comedy club? We've never had someone call the police on anybody's set before, but this is new.
These two officers here are very polite. Basically, there was a 911 call about me that somebody was nervous for their lives based on some of my material.
Hey, woo! Yep, comedy club, Florida. Always Florida. Always Florida. Just looking at you right now. You know what I'm doing in Florida? Shaking my head. Why? Because Ahmed, who's Egyptian. Yes, he's Egyptian. So what does that mean? Well, as far as the people in the crowd were concerned, he was a terrorist, and joking about it is not funny. This is the joke in question.
I jumped at the opportunity to be on this show because I myself have a lot of First Amendment issues that I deal with. So, well, let's just go ahead and point out the elephant in the room. I'm from the Middle East. Any other Arabs in here besides me? 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. 4. Well, it only takes one of us.
And people got freaked out because he said lock the doors, and they called the police. Say, what? Yeah. Is that insane? What the hell is wrong? Florida, I'm looking at you again, shaking my head. It's a joke. I don't fear for climate change or many other things. What I do fear is we're losing our sense of humor. Please, please don't embarrass yourself anymore. I can't take you guys anywhere. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. I'm working with an amazing new company. This organization is incredible. They're called Wounded Paws. And what they do is they go out and they find animals that are about ready to be euthanized, dogs, and they pair them with veterans. 20 veterans a day commit suicide. And what they do is they treat these animals and show them how to become service dogs to help first responders, veterans, and their families. And they're looking for donations right there. Looking for cars, vehicles, anything you have. Call them today. 844-678-4PAW. That's 844-678-4729. Or you can visit woundedpaw.careasy.org. They're amazing. It's tax deductible. They're looking for anything, RV, truck, boat, whatever you have. They make it simple and easy. And guess what? Even if you want to just give a gift, you can do it. It is totally worth it. Save a paw, save a life. 844-678-4PAW or woundedpaw.careasy.org. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
This latest battle over abortion is sweeping across several states, including this one, Kentucky, Ohio, and others that have passed heartbeat laws essentially banning abortion at about 6 weeks, which critics say is before many women even know they're pregnant, and essentially bans abortion altogether.
Yeah, this is, I just got a text from somebody who's very conservative, says, this whole thing in Alabama and a few other states makes it tough being a conservative. And he's pro-life. I look at this and I say, if you're the Democrats, you just got a shot in the arm that you need. You do. You got a shot in the arm that you absolutely need. But remember, before Trump became president, I talked a lot about this on my show. His lasting legacy, no matter if it's the economy, the craziness with the divisiveness and the fighting, I think that's going to be everybody's legacy from here on out. But whatever happens in North Korea or the Middle East, any of these things, his lasting legacy may be the Supreme Court and how he tilted the court right now to a conservative slant. And that right there is a big, big thing. And what he's doing to the lower courts in appointing justices, I'm telling you guys right now, long term, that is a legacy that's a big ass legacy right there. That is. Now, men, I always say, I stay away from this stuff, right? I'm pro-life, but I don't want to take away anybody's choice. Life is about choice. You make your choice, whether you believe there's a God or not a God. You do you. You make your choice. You do. I don't, the argument, well, it's about health care, slow your roll. It's, that we can sit here and debate the health care issue all day long about this. But this right here, this is tough. This is a tough thing. And Alabama has got a battle that is going on, but it is happening in many other states right now. And it is going to get much uglier very fast. Now, this is not going to withstand any. The court is going to deny this immediately, even when Kay Ivey, who's the governor of Alabama, it's not Nick Saban, for those of you not keeping score. He's the coach of Alabama, the college. It's not Nick him. It's Kay Ivey. She, a woman who is pro-life, will sign the bill, but when it gets to court and challenges, it's going to lose. But the whole point about this is Trump has two people that he's put on the Supreme Court. Two people. Think about that. It's gone from 4-4-1, meaning 4 left, 4 right, and 1 kind of sways the direction here, direction there. Now you're going to have 5 on the right, 4 on the left. That's the legacy right there.
You just aborted the state of Alabama. You just raped Alabama with this bill that you're about to send out here. And the governor, when you sign it, you just raped the state of Alabama yourself.
But is this going to help the Democrats? Because now you've energized the Democrats. Because let's be real. I read a great article the other day. Mark Cuban's like, none of these people running right now are going to beat Trump. You need everything you can. You need the economy to fall apart. You need some other massive disaster you can point at him and go, ha-ha, and it's not trade, because a lot of people around the globe and a lot of people on the left are very happy with the fact that Trump is taking up this fight when it comes to trade. So you need several things. Is this one of those things that sets you up for money raising, but also for activism and people getting out there and saying, you know what, I don't like the craziness of some of these people on the left that are going further and further left, but I can't stand what's going on now. And that people are able to say, ha, look, now that we've got the court in our hands, we can do anything we want. Now, I'm a states' rights person. Alabama, you do you. California does California. Florida does Florida. We have laws. We have a constitution, those things. You do you. I get that. But I tell you what, it is going to get ugly. Now there's a chance to be activists. There's a chance to raise money, which, as we all know, both the guns right advocates, both the people on the left who are pro-abortion and people on the right who are pro-life, they all like the opportunity to raise money.
In The Handmaid's Tale, it is all about women's autonomy because women have been pretty much treated like breeding factories, and we believe that this is what laws like this do.
And you're going to hear a ton of that you're going to hear a ton of that. And think about this, too. The bill does some stuff where essentially if the woman's life is truly in danger, then that's okay. But it doesn't make any exceptions for rape or incest, which is just insane. It is absolutely just insane. It doesn't make any exception for that. The heartbeat, 6 weeks, really? Look, if you go look at polls when it comes to abortion, the first trimester, a majority of Americans are, all right. After that, it falls off precipitously as far as support for that. And when you get the third trimester, there's very little, very, very little. But this is an ugly situation, and the ramifications for Alabama are the usual boycotts, things of that nature. And, of course, and you'll get Alyssa Milano out there saying that, we should no longer have sex with men until we can do whatever we want with our bodies, which is, I'm sure her husband's stoked. He goes, I haven't had. So is that the excuse why we don't have sex? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Look, ladies, this is the way you know what? I tell men, stay away from this. Stay away from this. Right? This is one of those things. I've always said, in my ideal world, you let the women vote on it once and for all. All women in the country over the age of 18, you vote on it. If they say pro-life and and that's just it, we don't have this anymore, we move on. If they say we want pro-choice, we don't have this anymore, and we move on. Guys, we stay out of it. But Chad, what about, I know, I'm just saying, and I'm just, at some point in time, you just say, you know what, you ever walked in a room and see two people looking at each other, it's a very awkward moment, and you're like, I'm going to go. That's kind of, I think, the way that we look at this moment in time, because it's going to be a battle, and it's going to get uglier and uglier as we move forward. And the name calling and the fighting and the accusations and 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Do love hearing from you. So we've got a problem with immigration. For all of the stuff going on right now, we forget about this thing with immigration, and we need to actually start looking at immigration again. Call it a humanitarian crisis. Call it a crisis. Call it an emergency. Call it whatever you want to call it. We got issues. We have overcrowding. Places like McAllen have people sleeping outside, kids, women, all these things, because there's nowhere to put them. We just can't turn them willy-nilly loose. We just can't do that. They're being overrun. Our Border Patrol agents, they're being overworked. They're frustrated. And what's going on? Well, we're fighting over all kinds of things like Russia and Don Jr. going to show up, and we got a trade war now. And it's at some point in time, let's deal with some things that we can deal with. And this is one of those things that needs to be dealt with. And the numbers are, well, quite frankly, it's insane.
The numbers of people coming across the border are staggering. At this point in the year, 500,000 migrants have crossed. In 2018 alone, it was 400,000. So we're outpacing 2018 already. But you look at those images there and you just think this is happening in the United States of America. This looks more like a refugee camp.
It does. If you look at the stuff in McAllen, it looks like a refugee camp. Like this, where are we? We're like, is this somewhere in like Africa? Is this somewhere in the Middle East where they've got these tents set up? It is awful, awful, awful. And we're not doing anything that we need to do about it. And we need to address it. Now, Lindsey Graham's got a new bill that is, and he's, look, kudos. Right, to him trying to do some stuff. I wish more people on both sides would get together and start to actually look at what's going on. But, we got to address the asylum law immediately. We must address the asylum law. And the problem is there, and we continue to we just ignore it.
I'm willing to put other immigration ideas on the table to marry up with this. But what I'm not willing to do is to ignore this problem any longer.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, good. You want to talk to both sides? Let's do this. One of the things I've talked about it, having been down, I've been to McAllen, I've been to San Diego, to Yuma, Tucson. I've been to all of these, and I've seen it. And you talk to each and every one of them, the Border Patrol, asylum. We have to figure this thing out immediately. We must do something with that. That would speed up processes that are going on right now, and it would slow other things from happening here.
My solution will stop the problem. And I am willing to work with Democrats to do some things they want to do. But the status quo must stop.
Yeah, and that has changed the asylum law. And that what he wants to do essentially in his bill is either the first country you come to, you must apply for asylum there and wait, or you apply in your country for asylum to come here. Like most countries, right? So if you were coming from, let's say you escaped Syria and you got to Canada, you can't, you have to apply in Canada because that's the first safe country. And that's one of the quick rules, but that's a tough rule to change because that's a law you have to change. That's why the thought of administratively being able to allow Border Patrol agents to be immigration agents essentially and be that first responder that talks to somebody and decides whether or not there's a credible fear and the right to have an asylum hearing immediately or send them back is real. That would speed up a process. We have a logjam right now, and it's not getting any better. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Do love hearing from you. You know, for all the talk of abortion, non-abortion, guess what? I don't even think we need to worry about it because we're not even having babies.
The Centers for Disease Control says about 3.79 million babies were born last year, a 2% decline from 2017, and the fourth year in a row the U.S. birth rate has declined. In 10 of the last 11 years, the number of babies born in the United States has gone down. Researchers say reasons for the declining birth rate in the U.S. include more women getting college degrees and fewer teenagers having babies. In fact, the teen birth rate in this country has fallen 72% since its peak in 1991.
Wow, think about that. We're not even having kids. And while that's good that we're being, essentially a little bit more responsible, some of that's also because kids just don't seem to want to have sex anymore. They don't want to have kids, the younger generation. You've got women working. You've got all of those things going on. There's also the downside to it, which is we're not going to be replacing our workforce as it retires out and or passes away. And because of that, we're going to need more foreign labor. And most industrialized nations, Western nations, if you will, are struggling with this. And you look at places like Japan, wow. But that's a 2% drop. Imagine that you start to, compound interest. You start looking at over a decade and to see what birth rates are going to be. That's crazy. 323-538-2423 at Chat Benson Show is your Twitter. Car Shield. Shing. See that? It's my car shield. What's it do? Protects me from covered repairs, baby. It's incredible. Man, my car, I love my car, right? I'm not a new car buyer. It's never been my thing. But I wanted to make sure I bought something that's a little bit newer than I normally would. And I decided, hey, they offered me something. And I'm like, now I got Car Shield. And like, what's that? I showed them the Car Shield compared to what they're offering. Their people are like, that's way better. 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. And the shop is shop that you choose. The thing I like about it, it's got so many different plans for your covered repairs. So you may not need everything. You may want everything. But it will definitely protect you, and that is important. You pay a small deductible. They get that shop paid directly, whatever that shop is, and away you go. It's that simple. It's that easy. Get yourself some Car Shield right now. Check out and find out which plan's best for you. Go to carshield.com, carshield.com. When you use my code Benson, you save 10% right there, or call 800-CAR-6000, 800-CAR-6000. Use code Benson. Save you 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
You were convened and your teachers taught you about how you need to go and run in a closet because there may be a mass shooter roaming the hallways of your school. In our America, that should never have to happen. Why do we have to have a drill like that? To which, of course, the response is because there are people in Washington, D.C., supposed leaders, who have failed to have the courage to reject a false choice, which suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. You know what? You want to go hunting? That's fine. But we need reasonable gun safety laws in this country, starting with universal background checks and a renewal of the assault weapon ban.
There she goes, Kamala Harris. And as we talk about abortion, I've always said that pro-choice and guns, the debate is really the same. You want control over my body. You want control over my constitutional right to be able to have a gun. Well, it's completely different, Chad, because one of them is strictly laid out in the Constitution right there. It is there. Well, it's totally different because they didn't talk about assault rifles. There wasn't assault rifles. Yeah, actually, if you go back and look and find out what guns were around at the time, there were multi-round guns available at the time. They knew what they were. Well, it was totally, I get it. But it's funny because it is very much a similar debate. It's about control. In states, we look at places like California, New York, Illinois, where they go and they say, you can't carry this, you can't do this, you can't, I'm here in Arizona. I got news for you guys. You gotta go back and forth between California and Arizona. And when I'm in California, I couldn't carry a gun. Arizona, I can carry a gun. Anywhere I want to go, I can carry a gun, right? I can carry a gun. I was shopping the other day. Little old lady in front of me, you know what she had in her, you could see it. She had a nice little gun right there. Nobody freaked out. Nobody weirded out. That's her right here in this state to carry. The debate is very similar. California's decided to restrict a lot of different things, which is where court battle comes after court battle. These are very similar things. And Kamala Harris wants to make sure there's going to be universal background checks. She's going to come. She wants this. She wants that. And she's already said, look, she used to have a gun. But there's always that fear, right? You give an inch, you take a yard. The battle is very similar. It's just different subjects. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shoe is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Oh, we got mini AOC, which is hilarious. You have to hear this. How about this? You go to a comedy club. There's a comic. He says something. People freak out, and not in the politically correct way, in the, oh my God, is he serious way? People can't take a joke. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
You want to tell them what's going on here?
I should tell you what's going on? Well, I'm not even sure.
You're the owner. I'm looking, my hands are shaking.
What's going on after all 20 some odd years of having a comedy club? We've never had someone call the police on anybody's set before, but this is new.
These two officers here are very polite. Basically, it was a 911 call about me that somebody was nervous for their lives based on some of my material.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a comic in Florida. His name is Ahmed, and he did a comedy routine for a predominantly white audience, and it matters because apparently they were scared of Ahmed, because he joked about, being a terrorist because he's a Muslim, right? And apparently he has the look, and it is hilarious that they freaked out about it and called the police, worried for their life. At a comedy show. Look, I've heard about people dying on stage, but seriously.
You can't write this. This is like really happening in my career, in my life. But these guys are great. And this is the first time for you too, right?
I think this is the first time for everyone here, honestly.
This is going to end up in the act somewhere. Like I have to. This is new material.
The whole set last night.
I'm not insulted. I'm a little embarrassed, and I'm also maybe afraid for my life. I don't know.
People should be embarrassed. He was basically joking about, him being a terrorist. And at one time he said, you know what I mean, lock the doors. And apparently somebody took him seriously in this comedy club in Florida. And he's Egyptian. He jokes about it. Why? Because you joke about the things you know. And I'm sure throughout time. So let me tell you something. I mean, again, here's a little bit of what he does.
I jumped at the opportunity to be on this show because I myself have a lot of First Amendment issues that I deal with. So, let's just go ahead and point out the elephant in the room. I'm from the Middle East. Any other Arabs in here besides me? 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. 4. Well, it only takes one of us.
And that was the joke right there. That was the joke. And somebody flipped. I mean, it is so... People can't take jokes, man. They cannot take jokes. Case in point, Sacramento flight to Austin. Wait till you hear this non-taking joke flight attendant.
For decades, and I've never, ever seen anything like this.
Wednesday afternoon, Peter Uzelak was on Southwest Flight 478, heading from Sacramento to Austin, Texas, with a stop at LAX. But on the tarmac, a maintenance light came on in the cockpit.
Yeah, maintenance light. So if they're sitting there, happens every once in a while. Everybody's probably been through it. If you've flown enough, you know exactly, it's frustrating because next thing you know, something turns out to be a lot longer than it should be.
It's minor, but they want to go back to the gate and check it out and see.
The flight had to be delayed.
You know, we've been burning fuel, so we're going to have to refuel before we go out again.
After nearly a 3-hour delay, the plane left the gate. The flight attendant started passing out water to all the passengers. That's when Uzelak says the man seated next to him made a joke.
Okay, so you had people in Florida who were like, this guy's joking about being a terrorist. Oh, my God, we better call the police. You've got a guy who's been on a plane for 3+ hours. He thought he'd be in Austin already. He hadn't even left yet. They've had to go back. They've had to refuel. They're handing out water, and he makes a joke. People cannot take jokes.
And he said something that, well, they should be passing out vodka because we've been waiting so long.
Uzelak says the flight attendant did not take kindly to that comment.
She came by and said, well, you know, I don't think that. And then it was like, I didn't like your joke. Then my wife tried to butt in there and say, look, we've been on this plane for hours right now. And she says, well, so have I. You know, so get used to it.
Uzelak and the other passengers were shocked by the flight attendant's next move.
So, people in the audience can't take a joke. Flight attendant, air stewardess. Right? What else is it called? My buddy called one an air waitress once. Talk about not taking a joke. She was very persnippety. So, people in the audience, Florida, can't take a joke, freak out, think, oh, my God, this brown guy's going to blow himself up and we're all going to die inside this comedy club. Oh, my God. On the tarmac for 3+ hours, somebody makes a joke about being frustrated and says, man, instead of giving us water, maybe you should give us vodka. She gets a little persnippety.
Then, all of a sudden, I see her on the telephone up in front.
Soon after, the plane returned to the gate, and several Sacramento County Sheriff deputies came on board to ask the man next to Uzelak to leave.
And people started yelling then. In fact, people stood up. I stood up. People were saying, this man didn't do anything.
The Sheriff's Department says the man was not charged with any crime. Uzelak says he's filed a complaint against that flight attendant with Southwest.
If they have this in their records, you know, maybe it'll prevent it from happening again.
It's a little power corrupt, right? That's the way I kind of feel. It's just a smidge of power corrupts. And is it that? Look, it may not be the funniest joke in the world, but I don't know how it got to the point where you're pulling somebody off of a flight. I don't get it. Like, really? And you have got everybody yelling at you. Talk about an uncomfortable 3 hours from Sacramento to Austin at that point in time because you had somebody thrown off over something so ridiculously stupid. It's crazy. Cannot take a joke. A guy having the police called on him at a comedy club? We talk about the craziness in the world on the left side of the aisle when it comes to stuff like how they can't take a joke when it comes to comedy. This is insane. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Producer Phil sent me a really interesting article the other day about millennials and money. And it's so funny because today you had Selena Gomez come out and say the worst thing for her generation has been the social media world. And when you read this article about how social media plays such a massive part in the way that millennials spend money, it's really eye-opening. They're influenced to the point of where 50% of what they do as far as purchases goes, has had some sort of influence because of social media. So think about that. So they're saying they're spending tons of money they don't have because they saw something on social media that says, hey, you should buy this. Hey, and they wonder, how do my friends or my sphere of influence, people that I see, how are they affording these things? Because they're all living off credit. So they're going deep into debt. They're already come out of school in this fear of missing out world with massive amounts of debt already. So they're coming out with massive amounts of debt. And then they're looking around and seeing everybody living, quote unquote, these luxury lifestyles. And it's just not true. And it's setting them further and further behind the eight ball. It's crazy. But when I was reading this article, and Charles Schwab put it together as their wealth management team, it was so amazing to see how influential. We hear, online advertising doesn't work. It does work. It doesn't work in the old sense of put something up. That's why people who are influencers in the world of social media are in high demand, because influencing is so much more of a product mover and a brand mover for companies than just throwing up we'll just do a digital advertising. No, it's about the way that you advertise. It's about who you're advertising to, because I don't need to move the world to get you. I need to move just you. So I'm going to put something in your world that is going to influence you. And usually I'm going to do that based on what? People that influence you to do stuff. Not so much the brand, but the person. It's crazy, though. God, the fear of missing out is real for a lot of people. It really is. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. This is very sad, and I'm wondering when it's going to come here, because I have often been highly critical of Dr. Phil and many others, but a British television show has been canceled because of what happened after the show.
The tabloid-style Jeremy Kyle show, which ran for 14 years here, is no more. The program's been pulled given the gravity of recent events. A 63-year-old man was found dead at his home a few days after taping. UK media reports say he took his own life. On the show, he took a lie detector test to convince his fiancée that he had not been unfaithful, but was told he failed.
Yeah, and how much that's real or it's not real just because you're trying to get to it. He actually even went to the doctor because he had been battling. Let's before we blame everything on this, he actually went to the doctor because he had been seeing somebody because he'd been suffering from and battling depression for years to see if he could even go on the show. And the doctor essentially gave him a note and said, yeah, you can. And then it went south. And originally they said, and the show's been around for 16 years. They said, well, we're going to suspend the show. And now they've canceled the show. And I wonder about, I see the same thing here, because I'll flip around and you'll hear these wacky stories on Dr. Phil and, these Jerry Springer type like situations. And some of it is just, it's not real. It's not. It's fake. Some of them are just actors. Some of it is real. And you're bringing people on, and I think, and you're exploiting it. But look at this. In a lot of ways, we, just like when we talk about social media, we run into it, right? We run into it. We run into this wackiness. We opt in, essentially. I mean, all you have to do is watch My 600-Pound Life and say, who in God's name would put themselves through that, right? Who in God's name would put themselves in a situation where you're 600 pounds, 800 pounds, 1,000 pounds, and you're going to basically go on television? Because a lot of people are fine with that. That lure of doing something, social media fame itself is so much greater than the damage it may do. And it's sad. It is sad. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. You know what's not sad? Tasty food from Butcher Box. It's incredible. It is incredible. You want to fight climate change? Butcher Box, because you got to eat all that meat. It's delicious. Bristol Bay, Alaska. They got sockeye salmon from their wild caught. They got organic chicken, free range organic chicken, grass-fed and grass-finished beef, the best pork around. Over 20 different cuts of meat, better quality, better tasting, more nutrient-dense meat. Here's the other thing. No antibiotics, no hormones ever, customizable boxes, meaning you get to choose your boxes. You build the box the way you want. Boom, free delivery right to you. You can get a month's worth of the best tasting meat around, right, for less than $6 a meal. I think it's $5.38 a meal. Incredible. Here's what they're doing. It's getting warmer, a little summertime. How about the ultimate barbecue bundle? Plus $20 off your first box. That's what they're doing for my listeners. How do you get this? Well, it's simple. You go to butcherbox.com/Chad. What you're going to get is 2 New York strip steaks on top of everything else, baby back ribs, and 2 pounds of ground beef. Simple and easy, and you can save $20 off your first box. Go to butcherbox.com/Chad, butcherbox.com/Chad, butcherbox.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Got that sniffling, sneezing, stuffy head thing going on? Time for your daily dose of Vitamin Chad.
Like, hello, America. AOC here again, but this time from Washington, D.C., which is named after our country's first president, George Washington, D.C. Did you know that? Like, I want to tell you about my plan to single-handedly save the planet. I call it the Green New Deal. I picked green because I'm still learning my colors. I came up with my plan after watching, like, the most important document on climate change. It's called Ice Age 2, The Meltdown.
This little girl, she pulls it off really, really well. And I'm interested in, I would hope AOC would laugh at this, right? But I don't know anymore. My biggest fear for humanity isn't climate change, it's loss of sense of humor. Based on the things we were just talking about. Because I think that has a big, you want to see stuff heat up fast? A loss of sense of humor will turn things ugly very, very fast. Continue, mini AOC.
My Green New Deal will cost like $93 trillion. Do you know how much that is? Me neither. Because it's totally worth it. If sea levels keep rising, we won't be able to drive to Hawaii anymore. And I just got this electric car. It's eco-friendly, and everyone has to drive one under my deal.
Oh, she's funny. She's cute. She's cute. People will be angry about it. Come on, get over yourselves, for God's sakes. Have a laugh. It's even like this with religion. I've always said, you can always tell a religion that's grown up because a religion can laugh at itself and or it doesn't take what other people say so seriously, which is the problem I think a lot of people have, for especially in the extremist sides of the world, where if a gnat farts, they freak out and they want to blow the world up and everybody's an infidel. That's, take it in a much different way. If you can't laugh at yourself, which should be the number one thing, being able to say, it's funny. It's funny. You can laugh at yourself. And I wonder, because I often wonder, because I think sometimes so many people take themselves so seriously. I wonder if she would laugh at something like that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Oh, my goodness. Wait a minute. Disney's going to have their own streaming service, kind of, but not really. Or do they already have one?
Disney's taken full operational control of Hulu, even though right now it's not the sole owner. NBC Universal owns 33% of the streaming site, and under their agreement, Disney can assume full ownership as soon as 2024. Disney and NBC Universal's parent company Comcast also agreed to fund Hulu's recent purchase of AT&T's stake in Hulu.
That's so, because I know Disney's rolling out, I think theirs is coming any day now, where they're going to have their own streaming service, and now they're owning Hulu. It's just so confusing. I look, because I have my Roku TV, so I go on there, and I have so many, you look, there's so many things you can get. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what's this? What's that? But I was going through the other day. I've got Hulu. I've got Amazon Prime. And again, I've only recently have I started watching movies. Before that, I didn't really watch many, if any, on there. I just shopped on there. But so I'm stoked I've got that. But then you got Netflix. And Disney's going to have their own. And if you have a kid, you're probably going to have to get something like that because they're going to want that. And it's crazy how many of them are. Now Disney's going to own Hulu. And I don't know how that's going to work. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Oh, man. The trade war is still going on, people. But I tell you this, and I continue to say this. Go listen to Gordon Chang. He was on earlier, and I'm telling you, podcasts, let's go to thechadshow.com. He makes so many real points about the fact that because we buy so much from them, because we do, we're much more in the catbird seat, if you will, than people realize. And yes, it can be uncomfortable, and I think it can be at times very frustrating for a lot of people. But I will tell you this right now. Look at it in a much bigger way with this entire thing. And I was sitting here today. I don't know how many people CNN and MSNBC have interviewed in the last umpteen days because of this, that are farmers that they didn't give a rat's ass about a few months ago, but because they have a chance to hurt Trump, that's what they're going to do. That is just insane. There is a bigger thing at play here, much bigger thing at play here, and I think people need to really understand that. It's not going to disappear anytime soon, and according to him, it may be the end of the year. We could be looking at a situation where we're still rolling with this. We'll see. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Grab the podcast. Go to thechadshow.com. Your useless fact of the day. The word meme was created by Richard Dawkins, an English evolutionary biologist. Essentially, it means to pass it on or to imitate. Have a good rest of your day. We got you over the hump. Night, night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.